cho lãng tên luôn buồn chăm xăm piền run rè riêng vần đôn chi khmer chá là khao của truông rung tăng kêu pleng dương bài hay kê đáp pleng khâu làng cả slang ôn chăm tiếng ông anh nung sa ri cả dương tiếng pi thua rùm nai ha ai lời ban chân khơi tay một đà ai làm cá lá khai chìa mỏ nặng bên lông riệp rư đo láng quanh hàng mắt cài tràn trời trung ôn u lăng nôm ngôi nhưng sang tung slam pi niang nơi tại pro lăng slam chlang chmu ôn bong nơi tại pro lăng slam chmu ôn bong
They have a saying in Cambodian culture that children are precious like new shoots of bamboo that replace the old bamboo to replenish society and determine the future of the country. But a fire-breathing dragon destroyed the bamboo forest of Cambodia. On April 17, 1975, a rebel army led by a dictator named Pol Pot invaded Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, and began a genocide that lasted for nearly 3 years. Pol Pot was born in Cambodia and raised in a moderately well-to-do family. He spent a year living in a Buddhist monastery and then attended a Catholic school. In 1949, he moved to Paris to attend university and joined the French Communist Party, but lost his scholarship and quit school before he had graduated. In 1953, he returned to Cambodia and became involved in Cambodian politics. But corruption within the government convinced him that the only option for change was through military revolution. In 1966, Pot became the head of the Communist Party of Kampuchea, also called the Khmer Rouge, which means the Red Cambodian or Communist Cambodian. Pot organized a guerrilla army in the jungle with support from the Communist North Vietnamese and China. He visited China and studied the Cultural Revolution, where the rebels destroyed the traditional Chinese civilization. The Khmer Rouge ideology followed a Maoist orientation with an emphasis on peasant farming as a foundation for revolution. In 1967, the Khmer Rouge began a feeble revolution against the Cambodian government, the first in a series of unforeseen events that led to the Khmer Rouge taking control of Cambodia.
Over increased enemy activity in Laos, in Cambodia, and in South Vietnam.
U.S. President Richard Nixon discovered that the Cambodians were aiding the North Vietnamese along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. He ordered the bombing of the Cambodian border and sent U.S. troops to occupy Phnom Penh.
To protect our men who are in Vietnam and to guarantee the continued success of our withdrawal and Vietnamization programs, I have concluded that the time has come for action.
The bombing of Cambodia greatly weakened the Cambodian army and left the country vulnerable. When the U.S. troops evacuated Phnom Penh in 1975, it made it easy for Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge troops to take control. Pot became the dictator of Cambodia and began a ruthless, bloody campaign against a variety of his enemies. During the next 3 years, 3 million Cambodians were murdered by the Khmer Rouge in what is commonly known as the killing fields. Many were beaten to death, some buried alive, but most died of starvation and disease. 14-year-old Botevy didn't know anything about the politics surrounding the Khmer Rouge, only that the city she lived in was now occupied by soldiers wearing red scarves.
At that time, I didn't know Pol Pot. All I knew was the organization. I only knew that they call it the Pol Pot generation. I never looked into who he was. I just knew he was the leader of the Khmer Rouge. But now I know that he was a murderer. I know that now.
Botevy and her family, along with 2 to 3 million other residents of Phnom Penh, thought they had been liberated and greeted the Khmer Rouge guerrillas as heroes.
As soon as the Khmer Rouge came into Phnom Penh, they started making radio announcements. They said, "Hooray, Cambodia has won." They said that on the radio. All the people in the city got excited because they thought it meant there was no more fighting going on outside of the city and that the war was over. So the people in Phnom Penh and the kids like me at the time I was 14, my uncle took me out to see what was happening. And the streets were full of people. They were all congratulating the soldiers that were rolling in. The soldiers were all wearing black clothes and saying that we won the war. And we were all saying, "Hooray, congratulations." We were all so happy, but we were wrong.
The residents of Phnom Penh soon learned that their occupiers were not there to liberate them.
And the next day they got on the radio again and told everyone in Phnom Penh they had to leave. They lied and said there was going to be bombs dropped on the city, so the streets were full of people again.
With limited resources, the people began walking out of the city. Botevy and her family got separated and had little rice or water, and soon began to experience the atrocities of the Khmer Rouge.
While I was walking, I stepped on a dead body. It was a dead pregnant woman, but her eyes were open and I said sorry. When she didn't respond, I leaned in and looked at her. Her eyes were open and so were her mouth. And I screamed, "Ah, she's dead!" Then we realized that we were totally surrounded by dead people. We thought that they were all just sleeping. It was nighttime, so we ran away and kept calling for my mom, but we didn't see her.
Somehow, the family got reunited and, with the help of an ox cart, made a month-long trek into the Cambodian countryside. When they arrived, the Khmer troops separated Botevy from her family and sent her to a work camp for teenage girls.
Every day they would make us wake up at 4 a.m. The first thing we would do is line up so that they count us because people would run away during the night. They would run away to Vietnam or go hide somewhere, or they would go look for their parents. But in my group, no one ever ran away because they were scared. My camp was near the Vietnam border, and when that happened, they would kill the family of the person that ran away.
Botevy felt exhausted, isolated, and alone. She feared death every day of her life, didn't have enough to eat, missed her family, and going to school.
During the Khmer Rouge, no one went to school. The only education everyone received was how to use a basket and a shovel.
But one day she saw a familiar face, a girl she knew from school named Vanneth, who got transferred into her work group. She met her playing basketball against her team in junior high school.
When I first met Botevy during the Khmer Rouge, it was interesting because everyone got all mixed up and I never saw anyone that I knew. But when I saw her, I knew that I met her at a school. We couldn't talk about it for a while because they were always watching. We were both all so overjoyed to see a familiar face.
But they couldn't let anyone know that they were friends because friendship was forbidden in the work camp, and people who broke even the slightest rules were killed on the spot, sent to re-education camps or interrogation centers, like this one. Formerly used as a high school in Phnom Penh, Tuol Sleng is the most infamous prison and interrogation center. The Khmer Rouge photographed the prisoners, then questioned, tortured, and murdered them. Most of the victims were doctors, lawyers, school teachers, professors, and anyone who represented the traditional Cambodian culture. Tuol Sleng became known as the place where people go in, but never come out. Khmer Rouge soldiers put people in these rooms and shackled them to these beds for interrogation. They were raped and tortured until they confessed to being enemies of the state, and then brutally murdered. The prisoners were kept in small cells made of either brick or wood. The soldiers strung barbed wire along the balconies so prisoners could not try to jump off and commit suicide. It's estimated that 20,000 people died in this prison. Another eerie reminder left behind in the prison is this chalkboard.
It's terrible to think that a place where children once learned and felt safe will not only be abandoned, but turned into a prison. Many people were martyred there. I was so happy at school, and I was so sad when I discovered that the place when I used to sit had become a cell for a prisoner. It was terrible.
Botevy and Vanneth had no idea what was going on in Phnom Penh. They focused only on living each day in the work camp. In order to do that, they took on different roles. Botevy became the provider.
Whenever anyone in our camp would see a snake, they'll come get me. I would grab it by the tail and swing it around and hit it against a tree on the ground 3 or 4 times until it died. Then I would slit its throat and cut it open and pull its skin off. And I would salt the meat and put it in the sun until it was dry. And then I would give it to my younger siblings to eat. They call me the snake catcher. They would always call to me and say, "Tebby, Tebby, come catch the snake." I was too hungry to be scared.
Vanneth also took on a role in the camp. She nurtured the girls with her heart and voice.
At night, when it was quiet and the president of our group was gone, she would sing to try and calm us down from the hard work we'd just done.
I would joke around a lot. I like to make my friends laugh. I was still pretty young back then, and I was still happy in my heart. So when we'd be working or laying down to go to sleep, I would think of funny stories.
But laughter is rare in an environment where people die every day. The girls had no freedom, not even to choose their own husband. The leaders picked a husband for Botevy and forced her to marry him, not for the purpose of creating a loving family unit, but for the purpose of producing a new generation of slaves.
I got married during the Khmer Rouge. It was 1978 in August. There were 44 couples that got married along with us. Back then, all the women wore black clothes, black pants, black shirt, a handkerchief around their neck, and short hair. Of those 44 couples, they asked 3 to represent and speak for us. They promised to take each other to be husband and wife, and everybody answered at the same time that they would, to serve the organization, to bear children, to work hard, to help the organization.
The main focus of the girls in the camp was not starving to death.
When we would be traveling from one area to another, we would pass through forests and we could eat some of the leaves on the trees. So as we passed by, we would pick leaves off and stick them in our pockets and eat them along the way. If you are still hungry after eating rice, there's nothing to eat except leaves.
Neither Botevy or Vanneth were allowed to practice their Buddhist religion, so any expression of faith had to be done in private.
I felt hopeless when I was certain that I was going to die. I never had enough to eat, and I worked way too hard. I would pray in my heart that I could go back to before this all happened, just so I could have enough to eat and wear comfortable clothes. And I would pray, but it's not like I would pray to any specific God. So I would call out in my heart to, I didn't know who, any God at all, just to help me. Help me to have enough to eat. And when I prayed, I saw a light. I was laying down and hadn't fallen asleep yet. But I saw a light above me and it said, "You'll not die." That's all it said. I didn't know what it was. I prayed all the time after I would pray. I would always see a light above me and it said, "You will not die. Don't be afraid."
It turns out that Botevy wasn't the only one looking for help in what seemed to be a helpless situation.
I would pray. I don't know about Jesus Christ yet, but I would just pray in my heart. I would pray that God would be able to see what was happening and how much we were suffering. But it was like He couldn't see, and we would just keep praying and ask God to help us. I believe that I wasn't the only one to do that. I thought it was praying at that time. Everybody wanted to be free. It was like a prison with all walls. We could leave, but eventually they would catch us, whether it be a field or a forest. And if they caught you, you knew you were dead.
The answer to their prayers finally came. In 1978, Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion seeking to end the Khmer Rouge border attacks. In 1979, Phnom Penh fell and Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge fled to Thailand. Botevy and Vanneth were now free and returned to what was left of their former lives. When Botevy went back to Phnom Penh, she discovered a horror beyond her imagination.
The Khmer Rouge's reign of terror lasted 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days. Over 3 million people died. This genocide is considered one of the worst tragedies of the 20th century.
Among those killed was Botevy's father, a soldier in the Cambodian army.
I want the world to know my father's face. He sacrificed his life to protect his children from getting beaten to death.
Botevy greatly missed school during her years in the work camp and immediately resumed her education. It was also very important to Botevy that her children receive an education. One day, while looking for someone to teach her children English, she met some Christian missionaries and did something rather odd in a Buddhist community. She decided to learn more about the Christian faith.
The Khmer Rouge didn't allow any religious expression, and Botevy says she didn't have a concept of God, but one day she went to a local church and made a religious connection.
When I came to church on Sunday, I thought, wow, this church is amazing. Everything the speaker said was so uplifting.
The missionaries began teaching her family about Jesus Christ, his ministry in Jerusalem, and his teachings to the people on the American continent. And soon Botevy, her husband, and her 3 children were not only converted to Christianity, but became members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known as Mormons, one of the fastest-growing religions in Southeast Asia.
Jesus Christ taught us the perfect way to live. He's a perfect example. My mother was a devout Buddhist, but now she's a devout Christian. Her testimony is 100 times stronger than mine. She loves the church. She used to read the Book of Mormon and compare it with Buddhist scriptures, and she would say, there's only one God. Buddhism will get us to him, but Christianity will get us to him faster. I'm so happy that everyone in my family joined the church.
While Botevy was investigating the church, she had a reconnection with a very important person from her past. Somehow Vanneth, her friend from the youth camp, had also began looking into Christianity at the exact same church.
The
first day I went to church, Terry was there too. She had started coming a month or so before me, 2 or 3 months. I saw her from behind. I thought, that looks like Terry. I saw there was no way Terry believed this too. There is no way she would come to this church too, because before both of us were Buddhists. So why would we both be here?
By then, Vanneth had married and divorced and was raising 3 children as a single mother. She had also discovered that her father was murdered by the Khmer Rouge while she was in the work camp. Vanneth says she also became interested in the Mormon church because the missionaries offered free English lessons. But then, she had a spiritual experience that turned her toward Christianity.
Once I knew how to pray, I prayed and asked God to help me live Buddhism and help me to have faith in him. It was really hard for me to decide what to do. If I left Buddhism, my family would disown me. If I stayed Buddhist, my bad karma would haunt me forever. So I asked Heavenly Father, if the Holy Ghost is everywhere, please help me decide what to do. After prayer was over, I didn't open my eyes. Suddenly, when my eyes were still closed, I saw a light above me and I saw Jesus, just like I had seen him in books. I looked up and I saw him and he said, from this day forward, I will take away thy sins. He lifted his hands off my head and he lifted a shadow all over me, and then I woke up.
Only 1% of people in Cambodia are Christians, and even fewer are Mormons. But now reunited, the two girls who first met at a school basketball game and later in the work camp now join together again in their conversion to Christianity.
I believe God planned all of this. He planned for Vanneth and I to meet in church that day.
One of the main philosophical differences between Buddhism and Christianity is the doctrine of forgiveness, to love your enemies and forgive all, something very difficult for two women who lived through the atrocities of the Khmer Rouge.
Once reunited, Botevy and Vanneth found a way to work together, express their newly found religious beliefs, and heal emotionally from their past. They named it a Cambodian and International Children Friend Organization, an orphanage here in Phnom Penh dedicated to helping children at risk.
I would always see a lot of children collecting trash on the roads, and I would ask them if they wanted to go to school. And they would say yes, but they didn't have money to pay for it. But even worse was they didn't have enough money for food.
More than 24,000 children work and live on the streets of Cambodia. They have little food and no shelter and cannot afford to go to school.
When I was a teacher, I started to notice kids on the street that obviously weren't going to school, and I wanted to help them. So that's why I created this orphanage, so that they can have the opportunity to go to school and gain knowledge.
Many children at CICFO once supported themselves gathering and selling trash at places much like this dump here on the outskirts of Phnom Penh.
Many of the children make a living by begging from tourists. In fact, tourism is now the main income for the country, and every year thousands of people from around the world come to Cambodia to visit Angkor Wat, the remains of the ancient civilization built here in the 12th century AD. One of the largest religious monuments ever built, dozens of temples still scatter the area. At one time, the population could have been more than 1 million. It was originally built as a Hindu temple dedicated to the god Vishnu, and later converted to a Buddhist temple in the 14th century. Cambodian folk bands entertain the crowds outside many of the temples. You may have noticed that many of the performers are amputees, a grisly reminder of what happened to the Cambodian people after years of occupation. There are more than 40,000 amputees resulting from landmines left behind after the war. But despite the money earned from tourism, many children still cannot earn enough money to survive on their own. When the women started the orphanage, they didn't have any money. So they got jobs to support CICFO and took turns taking care of the children.
In the beginning, we had around 25 kids, but we had to raise them all by ourselves. Vanneth and I took turns paying for food. I paid for 15 days, and she paid for 15 days.
With very little money, they rented some land and pieced together this building for the children to live in. They still don't have enough money, but rely on their faith and donations from strangers to get by.
You start bringing in experts, and they tell you, hey, they're doing this on half the money an orphanage does. So you start, getting into the nuts and bolts and seeing this stuff. You got to help. I would like to see CICFO get to the point where Botevy and Vanneth never have to worry Sorry. I guess I better preface this since it got to me. When we first got here, they were ready to close. And they were really concerned about food. Rice, noodles, basic things, shampoo. It wasn't here. They were ready to close.
Because of Botevy and Vanneth's sacrifices, the children inside the orphanage have food and shelter. But the women also make sure they get a solid education. Just after sunrise, the younger children from the orphanage climb into these motorcycle-propelled carriages called tuk-tuks for a wild ride across town.
I think it's very important for children to receive an education because through it, they can transform their lives from difficult to easy. They can also contribute to Cambodia's economy.
Their destination, the public school, where they can get a quality education. Botevy and Vanneth want these children to have what Pol Pot abhorred, the power that comes from knowing how to read and write.
So it is very important to help children learn and grow. If a child doesn't have an opportunity to receive an education, they cannot contribute to society.
Education is really important to me because it gives us knowledge, lots of knowledge. If we get enough education, we'll be able to get a good job.
If you don't know how to read, there's no way we will be able to get a job.
Lesson 5, you are on lesson 15.
Meanwhile, the older children spend the morning learning to speak English.
Yeah, because A is a male.
A skill that will help them move out of poverty and find more professional jobs. In the afternoon, they ride their bikes across town to the public high school. Their curriculum is mostly academic, but Botevy and Vanneth also want the children to get a practical education so they know how to support themselves when they leave the orphanage. For example, they have a mushroom growing operation.
These bottles are filled with rice, sawdust, and mushroom spores. After 1 month of being in this cool, dark enclosure, the mushrooms are ready to harvest.
They harvest each morning and take the mushrooms to the market. The money is then used to support the orphanage. In exchange for staying in the orphanage, the children are expected to work every day and do their chores. They straighten up their bedrooms, wash their own clothes, and sweep the floors. The children's lives are very structured, just like a family, and volunteers who visit the orphanage are amazed at how well Botevy and Vanneth care for the children with so little money.
They're like gems, I'll cry. You know, once in a while you find a gem, and I think they are.
Visitors say they can feel the love inside the concrete walls of the orphanage, but say it's more like a family than an institution.
And you don't want to see this go away compared to the other orphanages, especially the ones we've been to here, how they're run. And those kids are coming out cold, and they're not going to be much help to the future of this country. These kids are an asset to any family, and that's what we're after.
Many children at the orphanage were born in villages just like this right outside the city. Botevy says around 35% of the children are returned to their families.
Just like a family, the children play games and sing together. But Botevy and Vanneth make sure that the children stay in touch with their Cambodian heritage. Son Patika came to the orphanage 8 years ago. His mother abandoned him, and he never knew his father. He was a scavenger and burglar before he came here. But now he lovingly teaches the children a heritage he appreciates.
I think Khmer dance is like more beautiful and more interesting, and I want them to know like Khmer culture and Khmer art, you know. And after that, I want to like a foreigner come to my orphanage and see how it's beautiful Khmer dance, and the children they very talented.
In addition to gaining knowledge and practical skills, Patika says he's also learned how to love other people.
In my life, when I live in my hometown, I don't know, I don't call like someone mom or mother. But when I come here, I call Botevy and Vanneth it's mom. It's like my best word that I want to tell someone, but I never tell in my homeland.
The orphanage curriculum also includes going to church on Sundays. They don't require the children to go to church, but they encourage them to study religion. They may not understand much about religion yet, but they enjoy being together, sitting on the same pew. At the end of the day, the children return to the safety of the orphanage. Everyone works together to prepare rice, vegetables, and a little meat. A meager but filling meal compared to what they would eat outside of the orphanage. At bedtime, the children create a tent city made of netting to protect them from the nightly invasion of mosquitoes that descend upon them.
I hope that in 5 years, good things will have happened here and the kind people will have donated enough money that we can buy our own land and build a better house for the kids, and hopefully the kids won't get bitten by the mosquito anymore.
A day in the life of the children in this orphanage is much better than the days of many Cambodian children because they have structure, opportunity, and love. Botevy and Vanneth see the children as new shoots of bamboo growing on top of the remnants of the bamboo forest destroyed by the Khmer Rouge.
Children are important because they're like new bamboo that grows in place of old bamboo. They can continue the work that we do after we're gone. Everything that is important to people on the earth needs children to carry on.
Pol Pot tried to destroy Cambodian culture by removing education, families, and loving relationships between the people. He died in 1998 while under house arrest, either from a heart attack or suicide. After 38 years and a lifetime of struggles, these two women now find themselves back on the same basketball court. It's a friendship forged through sadness, faith, and compassion. Botevy and Vanneth outlived Pol Pot and now work to undo his destruction by giving children an education, strengthening families, and giving love to the new shoots of bamboo.
Our orphanage isn't an orphanage. It's a family, a big family. It's the best family.
A big part of being the guardians of the bamboo forest means educating the children about the atrocities that occurred. So when the children become teenagers, Botevy and Vanneth take them to the Killing Fields Museum. It's difficult for them to process the details of what happened here.
I don't feel very happy today because I'm here in this very sad place where millions of my brothers and sisters were killed. I feel so bad for them, and being here with Vanneth makes those feelings come back even stronger. When I'm walking around, I feel angry. I feel hungry. I feel pain. It makes me so angry to think that Cambodians could kill each other like that. How could they be so unmerciful? I pity the people who died. And being here with the kids makes me want to teach them that this is one of the most horrible places in the world. Millions of people died here. Maybe they're even still here wandering. And I want the kids to realize how terrible all this was so that they'll never do anything like it. I want them to learn never to harm another human being.
One of the most dramatic points of the tour was when they showed them this tree.
They hit the children on the tree and killed them. So many people died. The tree died from all the blood surrounding it.
It makes me very sad to be here. I feel really bad for my people. There will never be a time where Cambodians were killing each other like that. It makes me feel really sad.
If Botevy and Vanneth hadn't survived, they wouldn't have created the orphanage that helped me so much, and I wouldn't have been able to get an education. I also wouldn't have learned about the Khmer Rouge and all the people that were killed.
Botevy and Vanneth don't believe that the lives of their friends and family ended in the killing fields. They believe that they will see them all again, and they believe the bonds of love they develop with the children in the orphanage will last forever. In 2005, Botevy and her husband went to their church's temple in Hong Kong and entered into an eternal marriage relationship. Even though they were randomly selected to join together by the brutal soldiers of the Khmer Rouge, they somehow found a way to stay together.
All 44 of those couples have since divorced, except for me and my husband.
While in the temple, Botevy had another spiritual experience. She felt the same light, love, and comfort that she felt all those years ago while praying at night in the work camp.
At that time, I had no idea whose voice it was or where it was coming from. But based upon what I know now, I have no doubt that it was Jesus Christ. When I went to the temple for the first time, I saw the same light.
Botevy and Vanneth want the children in the orphanage to feel the same light and love that they felt. They want them to know that God loves them, even though some were abandoned by their birth parents. They treat each child as if they were their own son or daughter. Sompia and Sompoa showed up one day at the orphanage door. Their mother dropped them off because she couldn't afford to feed them. Botevy and Vanneth took the girls in, clothed and fed them, and got them in school. Eventually, their mother started her own business. Now the girls work with their mother, making porridge.
In the morning, I wake up at 5 o'clock. I prepare the stall, start the fires, and then start cooking the porridge. I help my mom by holding the money and keeping track of it. When people all over the market order porridge from my mom, I go deliver it to them.
Botevy visits the girls almost every day because they have become a part of her family.
I'm really happy because they could continue their education. Sompoa is in her 3rd year of college and she's doing really well. She's learning to be a financial banker. And her little sister is also doing really well in school. And I'm really happy that they have continued their education because their mom is better off now.
When I was at CICFO, I learned so much. I did a lot of things with the other kids there. The kids there love me.
Children sharing all around the world.
The children at the orphanage love to sing the song Holding Hands Around the World.
With the strength of yours, we do the Father work.
It's an amazing transformation from a society where an evil dictator separated children from those that they loved, murdered many, and forced others to work as slaves. But these children represent the future of Cambodia, the growing shoots on top of the old bamboo, now thriving under the guidance of the guardians of the bamboo forest.
We believe and we serve Jesus Christ.
ពីមេសាកម្ពុជារំដងសំរែងជាខុំក៏ក្រើកមេឃាដុំពពកខ្មៅរលាយហើយណារៀងស្មីកំថ្លាគេទៅយងចាំងចាញ់ចេះតែប៉ុណ្ណា